and to welcome our special guest. He was a former professional tennis player who had a top ranking of number 60 in the world. And after retirement, he began coaching, having worked with players like Frances Tiafoe, Sam Querrey, and Mackie McDonald, and now he works with Taylor Fritz. And my favorite fact about him is that he was a Miami Hurricane, which I also was as well. So without further ado, I want to welcome Michael Russell. Well, thank you so much for being here. Before we get into your coaching experience, I wanted to take it back a bit. We talked a little about your playing experience, but can you just talk a little bit about what you think defined you most as a player?
I mean, I think part of it was just my relentlessness, never give up attitude. Obviously, I wasn't winning matches with huge serving, so I had to just go out there and determination. And part of it was I never feared who I played. I always believed that I could win matches no matter who I was playing. So I played some great matches, played Roger at the French Open, I played Rafa at Wimbledon. And I mean, going on court, I always thought I could win. I think that's a big part of believing in yourself, and part of that is the preparation you put in. So that was a big part of my philosophy going in. If I was prepared, then that bred confidence.
I know that having been around pro players a lot, it's hard to even plan for the next day. But when you were playing, did you think that you wanted to get into coaching when you got done playing?
Not really. I mean, I didn't. I was just thinking about playing, and that's how tennis players are. You know, it's pretty selfish. You're just thinking about the match and how to get ready and how to win and how to find ways to win. So I was never really thinking ahead of that much in the future, and it was more just when I stopped playing, my wife kind of pushed it in just by saying, look, you have basically a PhD in tennis, and share your knowledge and tennis IQ and analytical mindset and see where it takes you and if you enjoy it.
I mean, I know for me personally, the transition from playing into the real world was a little bit tough. How did you find the transition for you from going from playing into coaching?
It's definitely different, definitely a little bit challenging, because when I touched on it, you go from being the player and so selfish to selfless. So my whole role is to make sure the player is prepared and he's able to maximize his talent and be ready on that day. So it's a different mindset altogether.
For sure. I know you've coached a lot of players, so just walk us through and tell the group really kind of what your coaching philosophy is, both like developing players physically, mentally, emotionally. How have you approached this? And also would love to hear kind of how your philosophy may have changed over the last few players or last few years you've been coaching.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every player is unique. There's different personalities, so you really have to take that into account. If you were to describe coaching, I know everybody likes to say, what's your philosophy? I mean, I try to take a mix of a little bit of everything. So you could say holistic, democratic, and autocratic, which is making sure there's open communication, really focusing on the well-being of the player, understanding their needs, and then also having structured accountability, making sure that there's respect and that they're willing to put the work in, when it needs to be done, and encompassing all of those, and that just creates a really healthy relationship, and that's what right now, Taylor and I have really good synergy.
I think it is so interesting. Like, if you get a new job, you see your coworkers like during the day, but then you go back to your life. When you become in a coach-player relationship, like you go from maybe not knowing them very well to like seeing them 15, basically like you're traveling the world, like you're spending that much time together. Talk to us about how you do the off-court kind of relationship building and what your process is like when you first start working with someone to really getting to a point that you feel like you are now with Taylor. Yeah,
and it's definitely super important to create that relationship and make sure that they're comfortable and they understand that it's a two-way relationship, and again, that open communication. So they understand what you're trying to do, you understand what they're trying to do. I think at the end of the day, when they see that you have the passion and the trust, that you're really out there to make sure they're succeeding, that just builds confidence in them and in you, and that's important. And specifically for Taylor and I, we're traveling almost 40 weeks together, which is a lot. It's a lot. So most of our day together is usually spent just at the courts, on the practice court or in the lunch area, and then he'll do his own thing at dinner. And I just think that's a good, healthy way to have a little more, mental health for everyone, because it's just a lot of time together. But it's good. It's been working well.
I sent him the questions in advance, but I'm gonna throw just like a curveball
Okay,
at you,
let's
if you
hear
don't
it.
mind.
Let's hear it.
Taylor is known to play one of the heavier schedules of any of the top players.
Yeah.
Can you just talk to the people here just about like how you go about creating his schedule with him? Why such a heavy schedule? I just think it's an interesting kind of behind the scenes if maybe people aren't aware of kind of how that comes to be.
Yes, he does like to play. Kudos to him. He's extremely stubborn, but he is one of the most competitive human beings I've ever met, which is a big positive for his character, and that's why you see, he has that never say die attitude, like fighting for every point. But yeah, sometimes he enjoys the competition a lot more than the training, which is understandable.
Same.
Yeah, it's understandable. But at the same time, having those training blocks is really important. So, collaboration and coordination with his agent, making sure the sponsor commitments and the training blocks and the tournaments are all coordinated throughout the year. It's a challenge, but we try to microdose training blocks in between, and the schedule getting longer in Master Series are 2 weeks now, so it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. Okay, back to our regular scheduled programming of questions. How do you balance strategy and emotion? So when Taylor's down 2 sets to love at Wimbledon, from the box, you always seem super calm, like you have very stoic. How do you kind of know what to say to him when he's in that sort of a situation? Is it really just focusing on what he needs to do strategically, or is it really more trying to like keep him uplifted and motivated? Just kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, I think the majority of it is positivity, keep the energy, stay motivated, and stay competitive. Don't show any negativity, because that's a big part of it. When your opponent sees that gives them a lot of confidence. If I see certain strategic keys that Taylor's getting away from, and sometimes that tunnel vision when the player's playing, you get away from just having a little bit of a macro lens to see what's happening. So I just remind him of certain strategic keys that we talked about before the match. But Wimbledon specifically, he's not playing poorly. His opponent is serving huge. It's only a couple point difference. So it's just stay the course. You're playing fine. Stay positive, and this match can turn around quickly.
I mean, my brief coaching career, because I'm such a competitive person, it was like hard to actually forget that I was there to coach them, and I was just like excited about them winning. How is it for you, having been a successful professional player and being really competitive? Like, how is that for you to go through these like big matches? And he's obviously been at the biggest stages and some of the biggest matches. Like, do you have to really remind yourself to like contain it, or do you feel like you're able to kind of?
I'm pretty you can see I'm pretty even keel. I keep it in perspective, and I'm very competitive. I want Taylor to win, and I have a very high expectation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just creating and continuing that drive to not be complacent, and the drive for success. And I think that's what keeps me just calm. And I also, it's really important, playing, when you look up and you see someone in the box that's making a lot of physical gestures or, showing too much emotion, it takes, the player takes away from their focus. So just, making sure that, it's calm, everything's cool, keep the energy, show fist pumps, that goes a long way.
For sure. That's why I kind of hope my kids don't play tennis, because I don't think I can handle it. I would be like, remember Boris Becker's wife used to like lay down in the player box? Yeah. Like that would be me. I'd be like so stressed out. I would have to like leave the building. Let's talk a little bit about Taylor. Obviously, he's always been super talented, huge serve. I think those of us that have really been kind of paying attention have seen the evolution in his game the last couple of years. Can you just talk about what your initial priorities were with him when you started working together? What you continue to really focus on without giving away trade secrets, but would love to kind of know just the evolution that you felt like you've had with Taylor in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. So we started, as you said, Taylor's got a great serve, really nice service motion, so we don't really touch that too much, and a powerful game. And one of the main components of his game is when I came in, you saw, was his movement, his reaction time, his fitness. explosiveness, endurance. You know, it all encompasses a lot of factors in tennis. And with tennis, as you see in the modern game, it doesn't matter if you're 6'10", you still have to move well. And so, you know, broke down a lot of the movement parts of his game to make sure he's transitioning more effectively. It's still obviously a work in progress. The endurance, the strength, you know, we try to microdose as much as we can at tournaments with the long schedule, but you know, he's gotten fitter, he's gotten faster. His defense, being able to go from neutral to offense, has gotten a little better, and you know, that's also bred more confidence in his game.
It is crazy to see. I feel like when we were playing, the big guys couldn't move, and now to see guys, I mean, Taylor's 6'4".
Yeah, maybe close to 6'5".
Yeah, I mean, to see the movement of some of these bigger guys now is really incredible.
Yeah.
Just speaking about the differences, having been a player and seeing kind of like the inner workings of what, you know, teams looked like or what resources or preparation players did, what are some of the biggest differences now, you know, that you see now that you're on the coaching side?
Yeah, it's full-on teams. You say all the entourages are 4 to 6 people deep between coaches, trainers, physios, analytics that they use. You have some doctors, hitting partners. So it's a full-on business, full-on teams. There's not as much social interaction, you know, between players, and it's become a business. You know, it's very professional, and you know, people go out and there's a lot of money to be made. So it's out there.
Yeah, I know. I could have used a nutritionist back then. We were going to like Chili's like after at tournaments, eating like So, what did it mean? So Michael was the 2024 ATP Coach of the Year last year. What did that mean? Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
What did that mean to you, to be recognized by your peers, by the industry for the work that you do?
No, I mean, it's very gratifying and humbling because it's my fellow ATP coaches that vote on that award. So to be recognized means not only that you're recognized for your work and the accomplishments of how Taylor did, but also just the respect, you know, from the other coaches. It means a lot.
And speaking of other coaches, when you're a player, obviously you know what you need to do to get better, right? It's training and fitness and eating and all the things. Now that you're a coach, what types of things do you do to continue to improve your performance or improve your knowledge base? Talk to us. I mean, obviously we know there's this whole new space with analytics, and are you working with other coaches as well? Are you taking cues from other people? Kind of talk to us about what your process is to continue to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of video. I think that's really important, and having access to that now, it's invaluable. So there's different outlets where we can watch matches. The USTA actually has a great platform. Shout out to Dave Ramos. He's able to tag matches, so we take, you know, a 3-hour match can be condensed into a 35-minute segment. You know, it splices out the dead time. So I watch a lot of video, a lot of analytics, you know, going back and forth, and just a lot of watching in person, you know, because there's it's being able to see in person the speeds and the heights, and be able to see the different factors, wind, humidity, that plays a big part. So just being able to factor all that information in, and then, you know, directing it towards Taylor. You know, we have sit downs, and you just got to be precise and go through, because a lot of the attention spans, you know, of players and kids now, it's not, you know, the 30 to 1 hour sit downs don't happen. So you got to be precise and succinct of what you're telling them.
Yeah. Because you do travel so much, and obviously so much of your attention is on, you know, Taylor's fitness and Taylor's recovery, but how do you make sure that you take care of yourself during all of this? Because one of the things I think we're the most proud of with the development of USTA Coaching is just it is really holistic in nature. Like, we're trying to provide benefits and services and education that help coaches be better on the court and off the court. So talk to us about like how you keep yourself, you know, fresh mentally, physically. How are you taking care of yourself? Kind of traveling is tough. So what's your process?
I mean, I'm fortunate that my wife travels with me, so that's a huge part of it. So we're on the road 40 weeks, but as long as we're together, it doesn't really make a difference how many weeks. And so that's a big part of it. My mental health is, I like to work out, so I try to find time to go to the gym in the morning or in the evening, and as you know, it just makes you feel good. Other than that, I love tennis. It's been in my blood. It's a passion, and mixing all those factors, it keeps it fresh. That being said, it's still tiring no matter what you do. And traveling 40 weeks, so you just got to keep that in mind. And like anything, you wake up in the morning and say, okay, this is at the end of the day, this is what I enjoy, and get out there and compete and enjoy it.
Yeah. I don't want to insult any tournament officials, but aside from this tournament, obviously, what is your favorite tournament?
Yeah, this is the best tournament ever. But beside of that, US Open's a great tournament. I see some people in the stands, not naming names, but no, US Open, seriously, it's amazing. It gets better every year. And for the players' side, spectators, it's incredible. I love Indian Wells as well. It's beautiful scenery, and they do a great job. And then Wimbledon is just neat because it's unique. The history in the small venue. You stay in the village, and you can walk to different places. So.
Yeah. Last question, then I want to open it up to the audience for any questions. But there's a lot of different types of coaches here today. What would you say was your biggest piece of advice for any coaches in the audience?
I think biggest piece is passion, and be empathetic and open, with your players, and patience. I know you have to have it. It's all levels. Before I coached professionally, I worked with a lot of high-performance juniors for 2.5 years, and I was on court for 45 hours a day, in the Houston heat, all summer. So it's just, show the passion and show the motivation and inspiration, because that's what, kids absorb, at the end of the day. That's what they see. So you bring the energy and manufacture, sometimes you have to, smiling and inspiration and motivation, and it goes a long way.
Cool. We have time for a couple questions, so happy to open it up to the group. Just raise your hand. I know we have some microphones. Don't be shy. All right, we got one right here. Second row, Jim, thanks.
What type of pointers do you give Taylor when he's playing? What kind of advice would you give him, on-court advice, when now you have on-court coaching?
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on who he's playing. A lot of it are reminders of moving his feet. Sometimes Taylor gets so involved in the match and so worked with the score line that he ends up reaching with his arms a lot, and the feet don't move. So a lot of it is just reminders to be aggressive with the feet, look to attack, and also he gets a little quick sometimes on the serve. So just make sure the tempo and the rhythm, take deep breaths, time management. It's really important. In general, a lot of times when the pressure mounts, we have a tendency to speed up and play too fast. So it's really just take a step away, go to the towel, time management, relax.
In addition to being the coach of Taylor, are you the lead of the entire team as well?
I would say so, yes. I just have to make sure I coordinate and collaborate with the agent and the physio. We're all on the same page, and I schedule everything when it comes to tennis, whether it's the fitness, even the media side, and practices and matches, to make sure everything's streamlined, and then collaborate with the agent as far as sponsor commitments.
Good question. We have one back here. We'll do that one back there, and then this one up here, and then we'll have to.
How important, in your experience, is off-court fitness for juniors these days versus like a decade ago?
I think it's important. I know I see there's a lot more specialized kids in tennis. So when I was growing up, we played a lot of multi-sports, which I felt helped just shape an overall athlete. So I played soccer, baseball, tennis, where a lot of the kids just play tennis. So I think it's important to definitely do fitness and encompass, but make sure the movements are mobility, and looking at other sports, how they move and dynamically, and looking at some of that exercise science, because sometimes you make it so specialized, it's easy to get burnt out, and it's also easy to take away some of the athleticism and the agility that other sports cross over into tennis.
One more. Sorry.
So you talked about the transition game and so forth. So just if you were to give me just a couple narrowed down drills that you would do with Taylor for the transition game.
I mean, a lot of it's just recognizing short balls and committing to coming in. You know, sometimes has a tendency to be a no woman, no man's land, however you want to say it, you know, where he's not moving forward enough. So it's getting comfortable recognizing and something sometimes as elementary as, you know, keeping the racket out in front and making sure you're following it in towards the path of the ball. As far as specific drills, it's, you know, a lot of it is just corner drills, short ball, get in quick, recognize, finish the point in net, being aggressive with intensity and explosiveness and just repetition. I'm all about muscle memory. So the more you do it, the more you ingrain the correct muscle memory, the more it becomes confidence and robotic-like in matches.
Well, just on behalf of USTA Coaching, so grateful that you joined us this morning. Thank you so much. Best of luck to Taylor the rest of the summer, and then hopefully he's holding up the trophy at US Open. That would be awesome for all
Thanks
of us.
for having me, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.